Greetings and welcome to a Keen's guide on Sengoku Dynasty. In this video we're going to look at build locations and specifically focus on finding those great starting locations, since in the latest update, and this video is as of version 0.3.2.1, in this latest version you can start building your village right away. You don't have to start in Sasogi, so making a choice of where you want to build can become a big deal now. I want to take you through some great build locations you could choose from for the beginning or later part of the game and go through some of the benefits of those areas, some of the concerns in those areas, and some of the natural features that you can use to build a beautiful village in those areas. And stick around for the end of the video as I'll give some tips on how to maximize and get a good placement for your bell, and also some early game tips. And in each of these regions I'll focus on some quick things that may help you out in the early game to get easy unlocks or resources that can help you out. Without further ado, let's get going to our first locations, and these will be in order of how close they are to the start of the game, and then we'll get further and further away and kind of try to make it so that these feel like they're more advanced as you go, or at least more challenging as you go. Our first location will not look like what you see when you start your game, since this is my build on Sasogi after I have torn down every village and I have rebuilt over it. You'll note that there is a fast travel location here now, which means that building a village here really doesn't have much of an advantage to get the early quests done, but I found that it was handy to just start the village out here so I could complete those early quests quickly and be near the resources that I want and be able to place my villagers and initial buildings down as soon as possible. Other notable features about Old Sasogi is that on the shoreline you can collect seashells, which if you don't choose to build here, please do make sure you run through the shoreline over on this side on the map. We are here. Make sure you run along the shoreline on this edge and gather as many seashells as you can, because they sell for great money at any vendor and it's a nice way to prop yourself up at the start of the game. Other notable features about Old Sasogi is that you can get leeks in this area. It's got good access to trees on all sides, and it has a nice extensive amount of build space and easy access to grass, and also has easy access to straw, which, by the way, if you don't build here, please be sure you pick up the straw here. It unlocks some recipes and it's useful. It has a great natural beauty for our trees here next to our Miko's home, and a beautiful shrine on top of a hill in the distance that the sun rises by, which can be wonderful for the view and aesthetic of your village. Also across the stream here there's access to clay and plenty of stone. On to the next. Our next location takes us here on top of a hill with a great view. You'll note that we are on the other side of the shrine that we saw from Sasogi, and please do note that between Sasogi and this location, if you're looking for early access to iron or early trade, the bandit camp is here on the map, which is a great location to trade early on if you're comfortable with that idea and you're not doing a RP side of things. This location is set into a nice plateau on a hill, which I find to be very beautiful and a nice way to build up. It does have a little bit of layering, so you can decide to go high and low with some parts of your villages, or your village and your buildings. It has a great access to wonderful views, and it is not as large an expanse to build upon, so you will note that you don't have a huge amount of space to build on, and you have access to only really coniferous trees. It does have good hunting nearby. You can get access to clay not too far away down at the house of our local warrior, and also has easy access to grasses and bushes. You can get bamboo not too far away, you can see on the hillside. Other than that, it is a fair location. If you like the view and you like being on top of a hill, this one could be for you. Our next location finds us here on the map. This is east of Sasogi, and is kind of a nice centralized in the north region. There's access to hares around here and decent hunting spots. There's a place of power not too far up here, which is a nice local feature. Nice hillsides to view at, and also, or to view, sorry. And then there's a shrine on top of this hill, which can also provide a nice aesthetic to the area. This region is wide, not perfectly flat is one thing you'll note. It is right next to our local village warrior, and it is not too far away from clay deposits, which are located right next to his building. You will end up doing an early quest here if you so choose. Now this area does extend for a bit, and if you like building on a hillside, this can be for you. Our next location is near to this, and it's kind of an extension of it. Our next location takes us on top of yet another plateau. We are not far from our other location, so what I say by it's an extension of the other one is that it's not far from the previous. It doesn't take you much to get to this one. There's decent vistas here. On top of some of the hills, you have a fair amount of space to build. It is not huge, but it is nice and flat in this area. It is located fairly nicely in a central area. You can easily get to Iwasaki, and you have some shrines nearby that are beautiful and a great aesthetic, and you can kind of choose how you taper this village in. From here, there's not much to say about the resources up here. It is very limited. You get access to trees, and you have some hunting and bushes and things like that, but not much to speak of as far as resources are concerned. Do note that if you choose this location, not too far away are bears, and they are quite dangerous in this early part of the game, so be cautious. Not too far away, we have yet another nice build location, which is here. There's a lot of extensive building in this particular region, so we'll cover this whole region in one. You'll notice that there's a cave in this area. When you look, you can see a watchtower in the distance. This particular area is nice and flat and is built up on a miniature plateau, which can be a gorgeous place to build. You have access to a number of different hunting locations. You have a diversity of trees between deciduous and coniferous trees. You also have access to bamboo not too far away. You are quite close to Iwasaki, which is very advantageous. You have your own cavern down here if you choose to build down here. And this flat little area is rather nice. It does build a fairly decent sprawling village across, which I know in my early playthrough I did make a village here and I rather enjoyed it. One of the concerns in this area that I've noticed is that wolves are all around you. You will have wolves heading down to the south. You will have wolves coming over here in the west, or that would be the west. So you will be surrounded by hazards to deal with in this early part of the game. So this is not necessarily a recommended early game if you are not ready to hunt and kill the wolves in the area. Similarly, we're in this region now. This area is beautiful. It has access to gobo, it has access to bamboo and taro, and also has a river going through it. It has access to many different tree types. You have your deciduous in this area, and it's not too far to get to your coniferous trees. There are plants on the ground, beautiful flowers around that you can build around and take advantage of for decoration, and there are great features here. It is nice and flat for a good part of it, and huge amounts of grass in the area if you so choose. There is also small bamboo here, obviously, that you can harvest early before you have access to iron. And if you need access to iron, keep in mind that you are not terribly far from Iwasaki. One of the problems you will have, again, this is near wolves and boars, which is good for hunting with the boars, but the wolves can be rather a nuisance in the early part of the game as you are trying to build up and gather resources and you get attacked on a regular basis. It is not too far from good access to clay, although you are going to have to travel a bit to do so. Other features in this area, if you decide to build on this side, which is the more tame and peaceful side, there's a great bend in the river, a little bridge that you could build around, lots of nice features. And an extensive area over here that you could take advantage of as well. Now we're on to my favorite locations in this area. This particular area, these two are some of my absolute favorite. Here we are on the south shore. Now keep in mind, in the start of the game, if you choose to run from Sasogi along the shoreline here, you can run through all of these shallow water areas. There's no area that's too deep that you'll not be able to move through. So you can just simply go along this western coast and be here, carefree, since there are no enemies on the shorelines. Please do note as well, shorelines means seashells. Please do collect the seashells. They sell for fantastic money. In this area, you'll find a nice, expansive beach, which is gorgeous and gives access to fishing. There's an island in the distance, which is neat to look at, provides a great view. And this area here provides a nice amount of flat terrain, good enough to build a village in, and a bell will not cover the full extent that you can take advantage of here. There's also good access to some flat swampy land, so you could think about having rice paddies in the back area over here, which would make sense, and it's not too far from Segi. It also has a river flowing not too far away from it, which can be a nice feature, and being close to the coast on the west gives you some great sunsets. If you wanted access to nothing but flat terrain to build and a coast, then this is your home now. This is a great location. You have a few wonderful features here. First off, you have a beach, and you have extensive amounts of seashells you can collect and nothing but open space that you can take advantage of and have as an open palette for you to paint upon with your village. The concern is going to be that you don't have that many trees around. You will be walking a distance to get to your trees. An advantage as well is that there's a lighthouse that you can build here as a project, which will get you Dynasty experience and also provide a very unique feature in this area. There is great access to clay. If you head down this way, there was clay everywhere around here. You're not that far away from the iron sands deposit, which means you could put a satellite village over here as an outpost. It's up to you. But you do also have these low land areas with water, which can make sense for building rice paddies next to. It also is a wonderful view. And if you've been walking around and collecting seashells here each season, then you are rich. Another area I happen to like to build on, which is this area here. I like the idea of having a bell tower here so I can build across and I can have a village on multiple places within this area. Part on one side of the river, part on the other, and that it's just extending between the two. One of the reasons why I love this area is I love the flowers. Obviously, beautiful natural features are a big thing to me. You have access to millet by the look of it. And also this iron sand deposit allows you to construct a motherlode mine, which allows you to have miners working this region. You are not far away from Aratani, and you're not terribly far away from Segi either. You also have some great areas in the region that are gorgeous vistas and also shrines for your local enjoyment. And it's not far from the coastline, so you still do get to take advantage of that sunset. Our next location takes us north of Aratani. And if you look, you have yourself here on the map, and there are a number of extensive areas that you can choose to build at. So for the first area, you can build in this region, which is fairly flat. It does have multiple layering areas you can take advantage of. You're right by the river, and you can finish that special project there to create a beautiful bridge. There's also access to decent materials here. You are right next to an old rice paddy and mill, which seems to be a very nice feature in this area. And not too far away, there are good views. And as far as access to resources are concerned, you have many different types of trees in the area. You have Aratani not too far away for easy fast travel to any of the other villages, although you'll have your own bell tower, so obviously that's solved there. And you have multiple regions that you could build upon to build into this landscaping feature. This next region takes us close to the lake. It's a bit of a trek to get here from the start, and you'll notice that some of your pathways are going to take you by wolves. You should be able to run past them if you like. Some of the locations around the lake are easier to build on than others. You'll notice in this region there are caverns, which can be a great advantage for you getting access to iron, although honestly, I would just go to Iwasaki and mine from theirs. It's free, easy, and there aren't wolves there, which is handy. Around this area you get access to ice in the wintertime. So these areas can be quite gorgeous to build on. This is a nice extensive and flat area with some beautiful trees for the springtime. This would be a nice space to build. And there's plenty of clay deposits in the area not too far away. Some of them are large and medium clay deposits, which means you need a better pickaxe to deal with. There are lots of mushrooms here, and there are clay deposits on the south here. There's also a temple, or sorry, not temple, but shrine right here on this side as well. So this area, anywhere around this lake, honestly, is a beautiful area to build, with the most tame of them being this side. There are less wolves in this area. You have access to some of these lowland areas that could make sense for rice paddies, and there's an extensive range of space to build right over here, and it's not too far away from a number of things that you can harvest for your early village expansion. Our next region is a long trek away, and I certainly wouldn't recommend this as your starting village if you don't want to wander a long distance. If you have chosen to wander this long distance, please be sure you picked up a bunch of seashells, went to a village and bought some things to defend yourself with, because it is a bit of a trek and you do have to pass through areas that may have bandits and wolves and bears. In this area, you have a nice lowland area with a shrine in this area, which is gorgeous, and some clay deposits, and a very unique landscape to build into. You have many different layers that you can take advantage of here, which I find to be a lot of fun to think about and to brainstorm around how I can take advantage of this. This area is your easiest to build upon. It's nice and flat and expansive. There are some old buildings here that you can tear down or decide to leave in the distance. It's totally up to you. But do note that if you're going to tear these down, it does require you to have an iron axe or better to get access to that. There's plenty of clay around and a lot of natural beauty with these flowers, and it extends for quite a range in this area. This next area is a bit unique in its structure and a bit unique in what you can do with it. It is by the, if you can see here, it is by the river on the east side. There's a lot of interesting features here. You could build a rather skinny and sprawling village. Do keep in mind though that if you chose this area, it is busy with a lot of different features that are hard to build around, these swampland areas. But it was interesting to think about this as a spot, as there are some regions that have a great amount of expansive flatness, some nice areas to take advantage of for rice paddies, or at least looking like realism to rice paddies. And in this area, you tend to find more of that flat terrain that you can take advantage of. And there are some neat features here that you can build around. Do keep in mind wolves are in this area extensively. The other advantage to this particular area as well, since it is not far away from the iron sands location. So here you have an iron ore processing location, which is not far away from our area that we were just exploring. If it's something you wanted to build around, it's not bad. You can get away with building here. It is a bit sprawling and a bit chaotic, but it can be built upon. If you're willing to take the walk, check out the amount of room you have to build here. And clay, a river, a view of a gorgeous mountain, and the sunrise is in the east. So here is the location east of Iwasaki, and this region is just great for basically everything. You can expand outwards, you have clay early on. You are unfortunately going to be near some of the locations where there are wolves, but there's also plenty of hunting and bears if you like bears. Who wants to have bears in the area? But you do have access to clay and a lot of different types of trees, and you have many options on where to build, and all of them are flat and expansive. Being next to Iwasaki is also a huge advantage because Iwasaki has a free mine that you can get into and take all of their iron ore, and then you don't have to worry about having a mine of your own. Just go there, take their ore, come on back, build stuff, and move on. Another area that I see having great potential is this region here. First off, you're in a nice flat area with a good diversity of tree types if you choose to build here. And as you travel inwards, you have some nice vistas of trees, like say our spring blossom tree over here. There's access to bamboo, not too far away, but the terrain starts to get a little challenging here. But the nice feature that's sitting nestled deep within here that you may choose to build around is that there is this hot spring here, which could be fun to have your village located right next to, and a neat feature that you could have. Another area you could build by, but is not necessarily my favorite area, is that there are a lot of locations south of Aratani that you can take advantage of. This is west of Aratani, where we start seeing some nice features and some flat terrain. You have a river that you can build around. You'll do a quest for that person there to become a refugee and join your village later on. And being close to Aratani can have its advantages. You'll note that there is a good amount of flat space around with a little bit of hill. You can build in some of the bends of the river if you wanted to build around here, and also have villages that span across the river. At the very end of this river chain, this river chain here, at the end of this way here, there is a waterfall. And here we are at this location here, and here is that waterfall that I was speaking of. It's not much of a feature quite yet, and you could build in this area around it if you wanted to have it as a feature near you, but it does come with wolves, and not a huge expansive amount of space to build. Want to live next to a monastery? You can choose to build here if you like. This is in the lower corner of the map. You could make a small little village here and have a peaceful little life not too far away from the monastery just up the hill here. One of the advantages of being near this type of location is that you have refugees constantly that are in this particular village that you can hire from as you are able to. But this location is small, and there's not a lot of room to expand. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's a decent amount, but it's not the most easy place to build since there's not terribly a lot to do in this area, aside from just build near a monastery. With that, I hope you've enjoyed seeing those different locations. Some of them are better than others, obviously, and some of them are going to be in the style you like, and others are going to be in styles you just do not like at all. One thing I want to do before we wrap up is go to the bonus tips. Let's talk about, first off, when you get your village started. First thing you're going to end up doing is probably building a house, so that you have a house for your first villager, Akko, and then you can complete that quest line to get some dynasty points. After that, please do keep in mind that if you want workers to be able to work at workstations, you have to have a general storage building completed. The general storage chest that's inside the buildings do not count. You need to have a general storage building for now, at least as of this update. If you want your workers to produce logs and other items from woodworking huts, you are going to need a wood storage building in order for them to actually place the logs. You'll place the tools that they will use in the general storage so that you can then assign those duties in the job. In our woodworking table, if I manage this job, I apologize, At the carpentry station, when I manage my job, I can choose any logs I want. By the way, keep in mind, any logs I want. It does not matter where I'm building. I have access to every type of log I want regardless, which as of this update is a huge advantage, meaning you don't have to build a woodcutter's hut near paper trees to get paper anymore. I was going to, in my video, show you the different areas for paper, but now that I know that we don't have to do that, I won't bother. You'll note that I added a woodworking station here, so I have 2 working stations in one building. That can easily be done by taking out your hammer, going to furniture, going to production building furniture, finding the woodcutter's hut, and then going to the carpentry station. You can then place it into this area just as I did, and now I have 2 workstations per single building. Please do note that some buildings are allowing you to have sleeping stations within them, so you may not have to have as much housing. There's a bed in this one, which allows me to have 1 extra villager. The more villagers you take on, the more needs you have to deal with. At the start, it's just food, then it becomes water, then it becomes later medicine, security, and spirituality as you go. It gets more complex as you go. If you are looking to get more villagers, please know that any of the towns, Iwasaki, Segi, and Aratani, should have a collection of refugees in their area. And if they don't, and I apologize if there's not some in Aratani, I know I saw some in Iwasaki. Down here in the south part, you can see right there's a collection of refugees. The monastery also has a collection of refugees that you can hire from immediately. You will have to go to these locations to unlock the fast travel to them, but it's not too hard to do so. Other big tip at the start, other than making sure you have your storages complete, and do keep in mind you will need a food storage in order for your people to access getting food or cooking things and place them into food. Remember, go to the beaches and take all the shells that you can get. If you run down this shoreline all the way down to the village or the location that I told you about on the coast and pick up every shell there is, you will be rolling in cash. Go to every vendor you can find. You will be absolutely rich. With our next tip, it's all about how you place your bell. We're going to place a bell here. Now this isn't going to be where I want to have it. You'll notice you just need sticks, logs, and 1 alarm bell, which you get right at the beginning. And now that you have enough logs, boom, you finish it up. Now, this may not be exactly where I want to have it, and also I may not know exactly how wide the circle of influence spreads. So what I can do is I can press T, or no, I'm sorry, I would need to hold down T, and now I can move it. Notice that now it shows me the highlight of where this bell tower works for now. So now I can exactly see how far my extent was based upon that placement. You will also note that it says I can't place this bell tower anywhere within this area. So if you're planning on doing a search for, where can I place this bell tower? What can I do with it? You can cancel at any time by right-clicking, and you will be set. Now, this next one that I'm extending outwards, if I go past this, you'll notice that it's still telling me that I'm within this ghost of the bell tower. And you can see the extensive area that I've got covered from that previous one. If I want to extend outwards this way, I can then go and I will know exactly when I reach the edge of that bubble. So if you are planning on building a village next to another village, now I know exactly how far away I can be so that these two's extent goes over just at the edge of each other. From here, I was able to see where my sphere of influence is. I can kind of get a view of, okay, so that's how far out that went. And if I don't like that placement, keep in mind that if I didn't like that placement, I want to make note of where I saw my first spacing right there. Just to show that example, here I am placing my bell, boom. And then what I can do is I can hold down T, and now if I remember where my bell tower was before, I can get an idea of, I wanted to shift that more to the north than I did last time. Now what I do is I just simply go back into my village, I go back to that spot that I remember it being, I kind of make an estimate on how close I was the last time, and since I already know that these two won't overlap and I'm going further north, I know that I won't have any trouble placing it. It's not in the sphere of the other one at this time. And this is something I did use when I was building my particular village here on Seaside, because I wanted to know how far I needed to get in order to be by the actual waterfront. And I wanted to make sure I had room for a watchtower on top of that hill. And I ended up having to place a little ways in here. Once you place it, you are now in this area, and again, you can hold down T to say, okay, did I do it? Do I have room enough on there? I am in the coastal region, that's fantastic. Did I get the hill? Just barely, so not bad. And if I'm very cautious and I really want to make sure I have the perfect placement, I can keep doing this as many times as I want. Just keeping sure that I have to always walk outside of my placement, place the bell tower down, hold T to move it, and then bring it back in. I hope those tips are helpful for you. Thank you for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in a video in the future where I'll look into the map more or look into other ideas on how I can help you out enjoying this game. Take care. And a like and subscribe go a long way. I appreciate it if this was something you do, and if you enjoy this kind of content, please do feel free to subscribe to my channel. Take care.